Everyone thought it was just another busy night at KFC. Families eating, cars in the drive-thru, the smell of fried chicken in the air. No one knew that night was the beginning of something horrific. I always thought fast food was just a guilty pleasure, but after my last visit to KFC, the hunger became something darker, something I couldn't escape. It was a regular Friday night at the KFC, the kind of night where people flooded the restaurant after work to indulge in crispy chicken and fries. Families gathered, couples sat huddled in booths, and the drive-thru was backed up as usual. The enticing aroma of deep-fried food wafted through the air, drawing more customers into the glowing red and white building. No one could have known that something darker lurked beneath the surface of those delicious meals. For me, KFC was a once-a-month indulgence. I like the crispy chicken wings and mashed potatoes, but I rarely craved fast food. It was just a guilty pleasure, something I enjoyed from time to time. But something changed after my last visit. I couldn't stop thinking about it. The taste of the chicken haunted me, its crisp, savory perfection lingering on my tongue long after I had left the restaurant. At first, I brushed it off as just a random craving. But the next day, as I drove past the restaurant, my mouth watered uncontrollably. I pulled into the drive-thru without even thinking, ordering the same meal I had eaten the day before. This wasn't like me. I usually stuck to a healthy diet, but the thought of the chicken was irresistible. The crispy skin, the juicy meat, it was as if my body was begging for it. It didn't stop there. If this story pulls you in, like, comment, and subscribe, because what happened next shocked an entire town. The next day, I found myself back in line, hungry for more. I wasn't the only one. All over town, regulars began visiting KFC more frequently than before. It became common to see the same faces at the restaurant multiple times a day, their orders growing larger with each visit. People who once ate at KFC occasionally were now there daily, sometimes even multiple times in the same day. Something was happening, but no one questioned it. The food was too good to resist. After 2 weeks of this constant craving, I noticed something strange. I had lost weight despite eating more KFC than ever before. My appetite for anything other than the chicken had diminished entirely. My skin had taken on a sickly pale hue, and dark circles formed under my eyes. But none of that mattered to me. All I could think about was getting my next meal from KFC. At work, I struggled to focus. My hands shook whenever I hadn't had chicken in a few hours. At night, my dreams were filled with the sound of frying oil and the smell of freshly cooked wings. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't care. I couldn't care. My body ached for that familiar taste. I wasn't alone. Similar changes were happening to others in town. People began to look sickly, losing weight rapidly, their skin graying and their eyes hollowing out, but they kept returning to KFC every day. The line outside the restaurant grew longer, even spilling onto the street at times. It was as if the entire town had become obsessed with the food. Local doctors began noticing the pattern. Many of their patients reported similar symptoms: sudden weight loss, shaking hands, insomnia, and an insatiable craving for fast food. But no one had any calm answers. Some suspected food poisoning, while others believed it to be a new strain of flu. But the truth was much worse. Dr. Sarah Miller, a local physician, grew concerned when several of her patients came in with identical symptoms. All of them mentioned eating frequently at KFC. At first, she dismissed it as a coincidence, but when more and more people began showing the same signs, she couldn't ignore it any longer. Sarah decided to investigate. She visited the KFC herself, watching as people devoured their meals with wild, desperate eyes. It was unnerving, and after ordering a small meal, she took it back to her office for testing. What she found horrified her. The chicken contained traces of a highly addictive chemical compound, one that was commonly found in synthetic drugs. The more of it someone consumed, the more dependent they became on it. The chemical altered brain chemistry, amplifying pleasure responses and causing severe withdrawal symptoms when not consumed regularly. Sarah immediately alerted the authorities, but as they prepared to shut down the KFC, something unexpected happened. Before I tell you what happened when the truth came out, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, because this is where everything spirals out of control. Word of the investigation spread quickly, and the acts, the ones who had fallen into the grip of KFC's sinister recipe, panicked. They stormed the restaurant, desperate to get their fix before it was shut down. The peaceful atmosphere of the small town shattered as hundreds of people flooded the building, tearing through the staff and grabbing whatever food they could find inside. People shoved and fought, clawing for the last pieces of chicken. Glass shattered, trays flew, and the air was thick with desperation. Some of the staff tried to stop them, but they were overpowered. The drug had turned ordinary people into ravenous animals, willing to do anything for one more bite. I was among them. I had lost my job by now, too consumed, doomed by my addiction to keep showing up to work. My clothes hung off my thin frame, and my once bright eyes had dulled into hollow, sunken pits. I clawed my way to the front of the crowd, my mind blank except for one thought. Chicken. I had to have it. The police arrived, but it was too late. By the time they managed to regain control, the restaurant had been ransacked. Empty buckets of chicken lay strewn across the floor, and many of the addicts were lying unconscious, having gorged themselves to the point of collapse. But even after all that, the cravings didn't stop. Once the KFC was shut down, the real horror began. The town descended into chaos as the addicts went into withdrawal. The symptoms were unbearable: violent shaking, hallucinations, and crippling pain. Many couldn't handle it. I was among the worst affected. I spent my days locked in my apartment, trembling uncontrollably, my mind unraveling from the constant hunger that no other food could satisfy. The once pleasant smell of fried chicken now haunted my nightmares, but I would have given anything for just one more. And even now, long after the KFC closed its doors, I can still hear the sizzle of the chicken in my dreams. The craving never truly leaves. It waits, lurking in the back of your mind, ready to take over. And somewhere, I know, the town will never be the same again. Some stories don't end when the lights go out. Some cravings don't fade, no matter how far you run. The town may have survived, but the hunger still waits in the shadows. Like, share, and subscribe, because the next story is darker and you won't want to miss it.